Ellie didn't like Tamara. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like Tamara ever bothered her, or anyone. Tamara was a classic quiet loner kid, complete with black fishnets, fingerless gloves, and choppy bright blue and black hair. She was the only alternative kid at school, so she wasn't exactly swimming in friends. She was really good at makeup though. It was her passion. Rumor had it that her mom bought her all kinds of super classy high-end makeup to use. She'd come to school with a face like out of a fashion magazine. And she always had these long false eyelashes. Other girls in school tried to wear them too, but they could never get them to stick, and the edges would be coming off their eyelids. Or they tried to put their eyeliner on over them and totally mess it up. Not Tamara though. Hers looked flawless, like they were her natural eyelashes, except, of course, that they were freakishly long. I think maybe Ellie didn't like her because she was so good at makeup. Ellie strove to be the pretty preppy blonde. Like that whole high school stereotype was her jam. It's all she wanted. It was important to her the way nothing else was. And she did a pretty good job being that girl, except that her makeup was just bad. She just couldn't seem to figure it out. Her eyeliner was always crooked. Her foundation was always the wrong shade. The other popular girls would snipe at her about it. Looking back, I think she was so insecure about it that it just infuriated her that Tamara, who didn't even care about being popular or liked, was good at it and not her. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. It's been years since it happened, and it's not like I've talked about it with either of them since. The day it happened, Ellie was raging on Tamara. Again, she did that a lot. Went out of her way to call Tamara weird or freak or ugly. I didn't like it, to be honest, and I should have told her to knock it off. But Ellie was my best friend, and I didn't want to upset her, and I was a coward. I was a million things but a good person. Then again, that's kind of what high school is like, isn't it? A bunch of sneering little assholes who haven't learned human decency yet. So Ellie was making fun of Tamara, like always, and just before the bell rang for first period, she sneered. "Those falsies are so trashy. You look like you stuck spider legs on your eyes. But I bet you like that, don't you, you freak?" Tamara didn't say anything. She never said anything. But she did watch as Ellie and I marched off to first period. She watched in a way that made me uneasy. There wasn't anything unusual about that school day. It was a Friday, and Ellie and I had planned a sleepover, like we often did. We met up after school, and by that time, I just about forgotten Ellie's snipe at Tamara that morning. It was easy to forget since it happened so often. It was just a normal part of our day at that point. About halfway on our walk to Ellie's house, I felt the hairs prickling on the back of my neck, like someone was watching me. I stopped in the middle of our conversation. Ellie was talking about one of the books we were reading for English class. Pride and Prejudice, I think. I turned around, half expecting to see nobody there. But there was someone. Tamara. Ellie turned to look at what I'd seen, and immediately her face twisted in annoyance. Ugh, is she seriously following us? Maybe she's just walking home too. As if. She never walks this way. I would have noticed her. Something else struck me as strange about the situation. Tamara had just stopped walking the moment we had. She was just standing there, watching us. "Let's just keep walking," I said. And that might have been the end of it, except that Ellie could never let anything go. especially not when it came to Tamara. "Hey bitch," she shouted. "What the fuck are you looking at?" Tamara didn't say anything. "What, you decided you wanted to follow us home? Think if you beg us maybe we'll be friends with you? You're so pathetic." Tamara still didn't say anything, but she started walking towards us. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. "Oh my god, she's actually coming over here," laughed Ali, but there was an edge to her voice. "We should go," I said, with a kind of clarity that comes right before a catastrophe. Like when you can see the train coming and know you need to get off the tracks. "No way, I want to see what she does." Tamara stopped a few feet from us. "Why me?" she asked calmly. It suddenly occurred to me that I'd never actually spoken to her. And she'd never spoken to me, to either of us. "Why you?" Ali laughed. "Why? Do you think you're special or something?" "I am special," she said quietly. "Oh brother, did your mommy tell you that? Are you gonna go home and tell her that the big girls are being mean to you?" Ali affected a crybaby pout, which I only noticed out of my peripheral vision. I couldn't stop looking at Tamara. I couldn't stop my instincts that were screaming that I needed to get away from her. "You're not answering my question. Why me?" Suddenly, Ali's playful demeanor dropped, and I could practically feel her rage. "Who the fuck are you to demand anything from me? Who do you think you are?" "Not who," said Tamara. "What?" "What?" repeated Ali. That's when Tamara's eyes started to move. At first, I thought she was just rolling them weirdly to freak us out or something. But then they started bulging out of her eye sockets and sort of wriggling around, like they were just trying to wriggle out. And they did wriggle out, that is. Two eyes plopped right out onto the pavement, except they weren't just eyes. They had legs, like tons of long spider legs, so they could scurry around on the ground. They looked a lot like the false eyelashes Tamara wore every day. At the back of each eyeball was a tail. They looked like scorpion tails, only they appeared to be made of bone, white bone covered in red gunk. We stared down at the eyeballs. Then I looked back up at Tamara. Her eye sockets were empty and bleeding, red rivulets running down her pale skin. She was opening her mouth slowly, and I saw something wriggling inside. Something that had a lot of legs. Ellie screamed in pain and clutched my arm until it bruised. I looked down and saw one of the eyeballs was on her shoe, and its bony tail had stabbed her in the ankle. I swore and kicked it off, sending it flying towards some bushes. The other eyeball was scurrying toward me. I yanked Ellie around and let her hold on to me while we fled. We ran all the way home, Ellie sobbing, What the fuck? What the fuck?" When we got to her front door, Ellie practically collapsed, screaming about her leg. I looked and saw that the cut from the eyeball thing had gone really deep. Her pant leg was soaked in blood, and she just wouldn't stop screaming. Her mom was home and saw what had happened. She rushed us both to the hospital, begging me to try to keep Ellie calm in the back seat. It was the longest car ride of my life, despite the fact that the hospital was only 5 minutes away. Ellie ended up needing stitches. The doctor said that whatever she tripped on, that was the story she gave in a moment of panic after they asked, that she tripped and hit something on the way down. Had sliced her ankle clean to the bone. There was talk of nerve damage. I didn't know that was even possible. By the time they were ready to send her home, Ellie was pale and shaking and totally silent. She stayed pretty quiet for days after that. I stayed by her side, waiting for her to snap out of it. But she didn't. Not really. A few days later, she went to the hospital due to a fever and redness around the cut. Turns out it had gotten infected, which required a pretty intense hospital stay and a lot of antibiotics. I stayed with her as often as I could. My parents even let me miss school for a couple of days so I could stay by her side. By the time she was out of the hospital for good, Ellie was a different person. She was quiet and jumpy. She was always looking over her shoulder. She wasn't as confident, or at least, she didn't act as confident as she once did. I tried talking to her about what happened, but she completely shut me down. She wanted to pretend it never happened. She never bothered Tamara again, never so much as looked at her. Tamara didn't bother us either. She remained quiet and alone, like she always was. It's been years since then. I'm still friends with Ellie. She's recovered, I guess, from what happened, but she's not the same person. I've never heard her say a bad thing about or to anyone else, so I guess the change isn't all bad. But I know she still has nightmares, and sometimes I still have to talk her down from panic attacks. As for Tamara, she went on to become a big makeup artist on YouTube. No, I won't tell you which one. I watch her videos once in a while. Sometimes I see one of her eyes move just so, and I'll wonder if anyone else ever noticed that they don't seem to want to stay in her head.